And we'll start this meeting off with new business. And I'll just give a little background on that new business. This came before council. Council made a motion to remove this to the Public Safety Committee for further discussion. It is our intention to bring it back to council after we have this meeting. I'll give you a little bit of background on it. The city has wanted to move out of the dog business. We think that volunteers are better at it than we could be. They can dedicate more time, they have more energy, they get the passion that they truly share and not just the job. So we were looking to get the best of both worlds and get the best care for our animals. And in doing so, also relieve some of the burdens that fall upon code enforcement and the police department. And Chief Logan and myself and Vivian Dahlin and Jane, along with the mayor. Well, first, I should even stop that. We look for we're just looking for any nonprofit, including PAWS, that might be willing to take on this venture. PAWS was a no. We tried, we just kind of opened it up for general conversation, and Vivian and Jane came forward, and the Salty Dog Animal Rescue was created. But in order to transfer those facilities, two things need to transpire. And the first is we need to amend the Ocean Shores Municipal Code. And that is item 1 on the agenda, and that we will be discussing with, that was done in by and large with Jane Shattuck and Chief Logan. And then item 2 was by and large done between myself, Vivian, and Jane Shattuck. So I think we should start with item 1, and maybe Chief Logan, why don't you briefly discuss the amendments to the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, and Jane can fill in wherever you need help on.
Basically, just going through it is just adding the nonprofits anywhere that it would have been the police department or the code enforcement taking over the kennel. I
mean, that really is truly the essence of it. It allows a nonprofit.
The whole thing.
It allows a nonprofit to operate the day-to-day operations of the kennel. Jane, do you want to say anything about that?
So yes, 2 things with that. We did not name the Salty Dog Animal Rescue in there. We put it as designee just in case, so we didn't have to amend if at some point down the road another took it over, so we didn't have to go through those steps. Secondly, the only other, if not a major change, but change that we did for the restructuring of the kennel would be the impound fees, which are in our municipal code. The impound fees, anytime an officer brings the dog to the kennel to drop it off for the nonprofit, the city will still get the impound fees. But after the point at which an animal is dropped off, the nonprofit will get the boarding fees, adoption fees, and all the care fees after that brought into the kennel.
One of the big things that I wanted to note was on page 8 of the ordinance, section 6.04.55, the impounding of animals. We took out the excluding of Saturdays and Sundays and holidays for when people can retrieve their animals and pay their fines, because with the nonprofit running the facility, it enables people to be able to go through the weekends where they don't have to come in during business hours to pay their fees, and their dog has to be held over the weekend because they're unable to pay their fees. So it opens it up that way so that they can recover their animal at any time, which is a nice benefit that they were unable to have before. Looks like we took out section out of section excuse me 6.04.110 on page 12, section I, where we had it in the original code that people could surrender their unwanted animals, and that's entire section I was removed from the ordinance. Other than that,
And I'll elaborate on that a little bit too. That was kind of a joint thing. With the size of this kennel, most of you know, the kennel only has 5 spots in it. And with the MOU that we would be signing with the city, we are guaranteeing the city 3 of those spots. So it's a very limited space at the time. As far as surrendering, other cities do this, but we are looking to, instead of surrendering, if someone feels or in dire need of placement of their pet somewhere, that we will do our best to help them find their pet a home. While hopefully they still keep that pet in their care instead of overloading the kennel.
Now, then my only question is, I know that we don't have public comment, can we do public comment?
Completely up to you guys. We just hadn't put it on the standing committees yet, but it's totally up to you guys.
I imagine the public comment would probably come to item 2 rather than 1, but do we have any public comment on item 1? The code itself. Okay, then with that, Councilmember Taylor, do you have any comments on the code itself?
No, the only thing I have is with the fact that the kennel is small. I only have 6 at mine, and I've had 11 dogs in it at one point because we have to hold the dogs. Is there any future plans to add to that kennel more room? Because you never know what's going to come up. We have a disaster, you got the people. So any future plans for that?
Yeah, yes, there actually is. That was worked on when this originally came about. The kennel part of it. At the moment, the police department is utilizing about 2/3 of that building that is not kennel. They are looking to, once they can find somewhere for that, then there is potential for taking over the entire.
And you have evidence
So
that
we place to store them, right? We also do some storage units in there.
So I can hear Scott clearly and I can hear Nikki, but I cannot hear Jane or Tom. If you could speak up, because I can barely hear you.
All right, can we maybe move that even a little closer? Maybe pull that, yes. All right, how about now, Lisa? Is that better? Whatever you're saying, I can't hear you.
Yes, it's just those two are very soft spoken, so it's
Yeah.
harder to hear them. I can hear you clearly.
Did you have a comment on item 1? Okay, so are both council members then good if we take that item and pick it back and put it on the agenda?
I am good. Tom, did you
Okay.
had some concerns, or your concerns, have they been addressed?
one of my biggest concerns is, and we've talked about it already, is the liability portion, because you never know what's gonna happen in that town. And you're still gonna have officers bringing dogs in. So, and you're gonna have people coming in and pick up their dogs or outside the place. And that's mine, is that liability. Oakwood has been sued once before, years ago, and they wanted a ton of money. And it went for, I think, 5 years after I got hired, it was still in court. So that's my biggest concern, is the liability on the city.
All right, can we, since that is an item 2 issue rather than a code issue, thank you, Councilmember Taylor, let's discuss that and let's move on to item 2. And that is the lease agreement and the memorandum of understanding between the city of Ocean Shores and the Salty Dog Animal Rescue. And there's 2 things that are involved in that. One is simply the lease agreement. So for everyone's benefit and for edification, this remains a city building in much the same way that the Lions Club remains a city building, or the Coastal Interpretive Center remains a city building. So things like, who's going to be responsible for costs or maintenance or things like that. Day-to-day operating costs, that will be the responsibility of the 501c3, just that as it is with the Lions Club. and with the Coastal Interpretive Center. But if it's large structural issues that are at stake, then that will be the city's responsibility to fix that. And that's no different than our other structures. And then on the memorandum of understanding, whether it's been done in the past, or likewise, our attorney, Amber Rosenberg, who's reviewed this agreement, she is the also legal counsel for the city of Auburn. And they have a very similar agreement where Auburn did the exact same thing, the city got out of the dog business, they brought in a 501c3. So this is something that even on the legal process, she was extremely familiar with. And I think we have a good memorandum of understanding for what's gonna happen. I think the lease is fair. Jane, if you want to add to that, just feel free.
That I also want to point out that Wicked was involved with the liability and setting the liability limits. One point I greatly want to make is right now the city is 100% liable. Where now the liability will be carried by a private, by the nonprofit, and that has already been secured. And secured the limits that WICA recommended.
Yeah, that's WCIA, just so, just in case people are, just in case people don't are familiar with the different acronyms. So yeah, that's the Washington City's Insurance Authority, and that is the city's insurance provider. And they are informed, they know everything that's going on.
Correct, yes, both, and I believe the city attorney looked at it a couple of times. And again, most people, whether you know or not, I've been the lead volunteer for a year now. I've actually implemented some little safety issues, and it's always an ongoing process. But we haven't had any human incidences at that kennel at all. We've had no injuries, nothing going on, and like I said, I'm constantly monitoring safety issues. Safety not only of the dogs, but of the volunteers.
And we've been running with the volunteers for how long now?
Nikki will have to, Chief Logan will have to answer that.
Forever? Yeah.
We've always had volunteers caring for the animals.
And, you know, as you heard at council meetings, the volunteers and Chief Logan actually changed the policy 806 here, last year, to, which gave pretty much 100% operations to the kennel volunteers. And it's been pretty much 100% kennel volunteers right now. And once again, that puts 100% of the liability on the city, where this would take that risk away.
People are gonna give anything you want to add to this? Okay, so then I guess, if we want, we can go to public comment on this matter. Public comment? Questions from council?
Nope, my questions were answered, so I'm good.
So then are we in agreement on bringing it back on the next council agenda?
Tom?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we will see you back at this with council, and with that, I will turn this over to Chief Logan to discuss our police department.
Mine is divided out into 3 different areas. I'm pretty much just gonna roll it into one. When it comes down to it, just the quick overview of it is, you know, we're still very much in need of a new building to spread out in. We still have the issue with our hot water heater being in the same room with our server, you know, which is the brains of our entire department, and we function differently than the rest of the city when it comes to their servers. We can't connect necessarily to their servers. We have to be one of our own, because of the security necessary for our servers. Our hallways are extremely narrow. They're not ADA compliant whatsoever. So it gets difficult, especially with all of our gear on, to even, you know, maneuver past each other. We have to like duck into hallways, you know, only one person can go by at a time. So it makes it really difficult if we're trying to escort a suspect through the hallways. You know, having 2 of us in the hallway is extremely difficult. We do not have an interview room, where, you know, state mandated a few years back that we have to audio and video record our interviews of felony suspects. We don't have an interview room to even set up that kind of thing, because we just don't have the room in that building. You know, we've got officer safety issues, like I described in the hallway, escorting suspects with the narrow hallways. We have officer safety issues in our booking area because it's a very small, kind of a confined area that when we're booking individuals with some very expensive equipment around there that could be destroyed in very quick manner. If somebody decided to get a little frisky on us. And we lack storage space. We currently have 2 little closets that we have all of our supplies crammed into, and it's just difficult we don't have enough for all of our necessary supplies. We find that we kind of have to buy things one at a time as we need it, as opposed to having things on stock to be able to go and grab. Because we just don't have the space to do that. So a new building is definitely something that we are in need of. And it's not necessarily that our current building is an awful building. It's not, it can be used. We have just outgrown our building and we're growing more. So it's getting worse for us. We are in the process of purchasing 3 new vehicles to replace 3 of our vehicles that have extremely high mileage for us. The old vehicles will still be retained for backup vehicles right now. So we don't plan on we don't want to strip them down and get rid of them just yet. And we are still in need of an investigator well, it was in December that the deputy chief went out with a surgery, and he was planning on retiring at the end of January, and he had a big return to us. So we've been without a deputy chief since December, and he was the one that was supposed to be doing the investigations. He didn't get a lot of them done because that position is extremely busy. I have an interim deputy chief right now that is one of my sergeants that I moved up into that position temporarily until we can get it filled. And he's not only learning administratively that it's a very busy position, he's also realizing that we have a very, very desperate need for an investigator, a detective, to do the follow-up on a lot of our bigger cases. Along with the deputy chief leaving, my administrative assistant left at the first of the year. We just replaced both of those positions. Well, no, we didn't. We replaced the admin position on February 19th, and she's doing an amazing job. She's really hasn't been in the position like that in a police department, but she is picking it up in a big hurry, and she runs with everything. She's been doing great. As far as our staffing goes, we currently have 4 sergeants. One of those is my interim deputy chief right now. We have 6 patrol officers. One of those is our new hire that just started on 16th of February. He leaves for academy. His first day is on April 1st, and he's scheduled to graduate on August 6th. When that happens, he'll come back and he'll be with an FTO, field training officer, for a minimum of 3 months. We've been finding that when we get people fresh out of the academy, we're having to extend their training periods with us because they're just not getting the training that they have been in years past. And so we're having to do additional training with them that we didn't have to do in the past. So we're not shocked if we have to extend their training at this point. It's nothing on them. It's the academy just not having the resources to train like they used to. We have 1 reserve officer, 1 code enforcement officer, my new admin assistant, and records clerk is my current staffing right now. As far as vacancies, we have the deputy chief's position is vacant and 2 patrol positions are vacant. I currently have 1 person on my hiring list for the patrol position. I have to exhaust that hiring list before I can test again. So hopefully we can get that done soon. I currently have 3 young individuals that are local here in town that have tested with us and very interested in wanting to come here specifically. So I'm kind of excited to get the hiring list going so we can hopefully get them up and on board. Would be nice. But then again, I get my hopes up like that and something always pops up. And we have to turn it down for some reason. But I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to be a good thing this time. Once that we get those two positions hired and get them trained, which a lot of people don't understand that from the time they test and go through the whole testing process until the day they're hired, and then actually if they're a new hire, the day they get out of the academy can be a good 9 months down the road, minimum. And by the time they're trained and set free on their own, it's another 3 or 4 months after that. So it's a good year before a new hire is actually somebody that is useful, truly useful to us. So, we're looking to, once they are useful to us, we want to promote from within to make a detective at that time and make a traffic officer is our goal. The deputy chief's position, we tried to hire back in December. Or in November and December, we were advertising for it. I initially tried to talk a couple of my sergeants into filling that position. One of them happens to be the interim right now. And it's a big move to move from the protection of union to an exempt position, where you're in an at-will position, especially when you're young. And this department right now is young. They've all got years ahead of them before they're looking at being possibly retiring. So it's a jump that they're not quite ready to make yet. So we tried to do advertising outside. We were unsuccessful to get anybody hired. So now we've hired a hiring service to do that whole process for us. And they've got a lot further reach than we do, a lot more time than we do, and we're going to go that route. Whoever fills that position, as a lot of people have heard the rumor by now, I do intend to retire next year on April 1st. So whoever fills that deputy chief's position, we're looking at when they come in that I will be training them to take my position when I leave. So it's going to be a pretty in-depth hiring process to make sure we get the right person, not only for this department, but for the city. And that's what we really need. So from there, as Citizens Patrol was my next one. We have in Citizens Patrol, we have Property Watch and Night Watch. Our Property Watch are the volunteers that come in and they check on properties that are vacation homes or homes of people that are going on vacation. And just make sure that the property is looking good, anywhere from, leaving a door open, window open, or somebody broke in, to damage from some of our storms where trees falling on their house or something like that. They report all of that stuff to us for us, and then we contact the property owners if necessary, depending on what's going on. Our Night Watch checks the businesses, kind of the same thing. So they check, the Night Watch goes out after hours, and then they'll go around and rattle the door handles of the local businesses and check on them. We have our kennel volunteers, which currently run the kennel, and like I said, have for many, many years. Before I ever came here, it's pretty much all been run by volunteers. And then our volunteers also do the radar trailer, which we sent off back in June of last year for repairs, and somewhere got lost. We're not sure. And we just finally located it last week. So we have hands on it again. We've got it at the shop to get put back together again, because we basically sent the brains of it off. And that's what got lost. But it's at the shop getting put back together, and we should start seeing it out there again shortly. Just some quick stats of last year. Our night watch put in 762 hours. And our property watch put in 419 hours. Our night watch found 3 open doors and 21 open windows. And our property watch found 3 open doors and 4 open windows. And between the 2 of them, they put 5,614 miles on our vehicle, our volunteer vehicle. If you've ever seen it running around, it's a little.
How many hours did you say, Nikki?
For which one? We had night
had
watch.
both, I
Here,
thought.
kept it quieter. Night watch had 762 and property watch had 419.
Thank you.
And then they also put in time, helping us out with National Night Out for the last 2 years. And you might have seen them at the different, city sponsored events at the convention center. They set up booths there for information and to recruit more volunteers and just for information of people that want to get signed up to have their property checked on, basically. So they get out there and they're visible. They're a great group. Currently, we only have 14 volunteers for the Crime Watch, Property Watch. And then volunteers for the kennel. And I didn't have all the stats. Jane did a great job collecting them at one time and reported at the council meeting. But currently we have 23 volunteers for the kennel, and another 2 of them that are Property Watch volunteers, but also volunteer for the kennels. But we have 23 that are just dedicated to the kennel. And that's pretty much what I have.
Councilmember Taylor, Councilmember Scott, any questions for Chief Logan?
Just gotta get them a building.
That we
No,
know.
just one thing, and Nikki, whatever you need, I guess, from council, I know that we're here to support. We know that the police station has been on the radar for quite a while. I'm kind of excited with the progress we have moving forward, but if you need anything from this committee, just let us know. And at least on behalf of myself, I'm willing to champion that to city council because I know that's really important.
Thank you.
Chief Ritter?
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight, everybody. I think this is really important to keep the lines of communication open. So we have 2 fire stations. We have one at 345 Marine View Drive. It's currently does not have living quarters in it, on it. I know that I've been talking with the mayor and Scott. They know that. We're looking forward to some possibilities. We don't have any details yet, but I'm very hopeful that we can get some living quarters down there to staff the south end. That would lower the ISO rating down there for people's insurance in some cases, and gives us quicker response times for the south end of town. The fire department is made up of 3 shifts: A shift, B shift, and C shift. They work what's called a 48-96. They work 2 on, 4 off. On each shift, there's a captain and a lieutenant. And then there's line staff. We have EMTs and paramedics. One of the problems that we're facing right now with the job market is we're losing people to other organizations and other departments. There's a lot that goes with that. It's not just our department, Aberdeen, Hoquiam. A lot of these rural departments are losing people to bigger departments, pay, more resources on fires, less work. A bigger team, more hands, things like that. So we formed a recruitment retention committee internally to kind of pick the brains of the line and ask what are some of the benefits of working here? What would you like to see? How could we do better? One of the biggest issues we've had in our department is just the constant turnover of leadership. Something like 11 chiefs in 19 years doesn't set the bar high for expectations and goals and policies and procedures when each leader has a different idea and they're changing things. That was one of the biggest reasons why I put in for the chief spot, because I've been here for 20 years. And I'm hoping to stick around a little bit to guide the ship and make things a lot more consistent. Our biggest challenge right now is really retention. So we're working on some culture stuff, making sure that the people are at work enjoying what they're doing, and that we're also we're also making it possible for them to have a full career here. And what does that look like to them? What kind of training are they after? What kind of goals do they have? What kind of things would they like to see? And the services we provide. And then we generally will take the talents of an individual and try to make that benefit our organization. So the recruitment retention meetings are going really well. There's a lot of really good ideas. You'll see a lot of stuff on social media as far as us putting the job out. We do have currently one vacancy. I believe there's going to be more here pretty quick. There was a large test that was done by Central Pierce Fire. They're a huge organization, huge budget, lots of equipment, lots of staff. So I'm waiting to hear, but I gave a conditional offer to a paramedic firefighter from the Raymond area. He's currently in the background portion of the process, so that generally takes a little bit of time. I'm hoping to get him onboarded by the end of April. I just talked to him today. We're also sending, this is kind of a benefit, we're sending people to paramedic school. If they're with our organization and they're interested in being a paramedic, the city is offering to pay for their paramedic training, which in turn benefits our community too, because the paramedic is the highest level of care in the field. Not to mention, we're so far out from a hospital, as you guys well know. We want the highest level on those critical patients as possible, but how do we keep them here? How do we increase their longevity? So that's stuff we're working towards. Chief Mandela has been pivotal in helping me develop our future together. He's an amazing talent, and I'm very fortunate that we have him. And I don't know how much longer he's going to be here. He hasn't paid, but I know, time's ticking. And so we have an attrition issue as well. A lot of our captains are kind of the same age, and we're going to lose a lot of people in the next 5 to 10 years. So how do we build for the future, and how do we, right now we're working on promotions. We're having a promotional process for lieutenant and captain right now. So if we lose any of those people, we can slide them in based on how they score and things like that. So I put together this book with Chief Mandela that was given to the council members a long time ago. It has a zip drive in it, but it does have our 2024 through 2028 strategic plan. Some of the things that we want to address is long-term financial planning for apparatus. And a fire engine right now is going for about $800,000. A ladder truck is about 1.5 to 1.8. A ambulance is about $400,000. And a lot of these manufacturers are 3 years behind. So if we order it now, we have to wait 3 years for it to get manufactured. So before, historically, it would be a situation where the fire department is constantly coming to the council going, oh my gosh, and it's just the fire department over and over and over again asking for money. So what we're trying to do is Mandela and I sit down and think of, think 5-10 years down the road, how can we put money in the coffers so it's not such a big hit for the citizens and the city itself. So that's, it's a long process, and Sarah's done a great job with finance. She answers all of our questions. It's just really, it's about revenue. A big concern I have is maintaining the level of service we have now, and I know this is a hot button issue, is the utility. And we cannot continue to make it off of the amount that we are currently. It has to get changed. I don't know what that looks like. I have an idea, but I'm going to let the council discuss that, and of course public comment. But we should have 10 people per shift. In my mind, when we go to a working fire, we get 6 to 10 working fires a year. On a working fire, NFPA 1710, you can write that down and look it up, says you need 15 to 17 firefighters on a single-story residential structure. That doesn't count the ginormous hotels, motels, and apartments we have, and things of that nature. So I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but it's a goal. And I think as our city grows, we need to recognize the fact that we need to have the right amount of responders for every emergency. people can get hurt. It's a safety concern not only for the public, but for the staff as well. And if there's not enough staff, people get burned out, and that's one of the reasons why they end up leaving, because they're just call after call. We average between 6 and 10 EMS calls a day. Last year we ran 2,980 calls. So we're a busy house and we're on an island, and that's the tricky part to keep people out here. When they come here to interview or they come to look at our fire department, they want to know, could this be a career department for me? What's the school district like? Is there medical care? Is this an environment for families? Things like that. They all take that in consideration. So the best thing we can do is work on culture in-house and make this a great place to work. It is a great place to work. Building the future together, I think that this is a really good start. I think that having an open line of communication with the public and having some council members here, so we can kind of give them the what for, or what's coming down the pipe, or things like that. So it's not a big surprise when I go to council and they say something like, we need $500,000 for SCBA's. You guys will know the rhyme and reason behind that. The SCBA's, the self-contained breathing apparatus, have now been put into service. We have a compressor and a fill station as well, that we use to fill those SCBA's. We're gonna try to look at the future and how to replace a lot of this equipment, because when it comes to expiration, it's, oh my gosh, you know, we need to replace these now, where we need to think a little bit more ahead and plan a little bit better. I do have 4 new volunteers, which is awesome. The return on investment with volunteers, it's a little difficult, because just to set a gear is $5,000. Helmets, $300, boots are $350. And then we pay for their EMT class, and we pay for their fire academy. And then we don't know how long they're gonna stay. We do give them 5 preference points when they get all their training. If they want to test for our fire department, they get 5 preference points on that exam, which can be really huge. About half of our fire department were former volunteers with our organization, but volunteerism has absolutely tanked. It's tanked across the board in fire departments across the country, in all your service clubs. It's just gone downhill, but we're always taking volunteers. And then I've been working with Scott and the mayor in creating a cadet program. We just started a cadet program. We had our first meeting last week, and I was really impressed with the amount of kids we got. We got 4 from North Beach, and we got some from Hoquiam and Aberdeen. I have a curriculum for these kids. It's a non-emergent responder type. It's like an explorer type program, but I want to try to, for lack of a better term, light their fire and get them excited about this profession, because it is an awesome profession to be able to go out and help make somebody's worst day a better day. But I'm gonna probably end it right at the summertime, and then pick it back up when school starts again, and then take these kids and maybe they can help lead the next troop. I do have a curriculum. They will be CPR certified. And then I have a bunch of stuff that I can go over with them: ropes and knots, ladders, forcible entry. I'll put them in some kind of protective equipment. They can go through reps and stuff. But as far as responding, they're just not allowed to do that until they're 18. We do have some hurdles, like every other department in the city, but I think the cohesive relationship that I have with Mandela and Scott and the mayor and Sarah and Chief Logan here, I think it's a really good time. I think we're moving mountains pretty quickly. And I do think that in my opinion, the walking clinic or some sort of healthcare that we can get started in Ocean Shores is huge. Down the road, when I have the staff, I want to do monthly CPR classes for the public. I want to try to start a community paramedic program where we have a paramedic working Monday through Friday, and they go to what we call people who call 911 a lot, because they don't have that primary care and they don't have that follow-up care, and they can't connect the dots and the resources, and that's the only reason they're calling 911. So by developing a community paramedic program, we can probably minimize those non-emergent 911 calls that are taking our crews out of service when real emergencies are happening. We double and triple up all the time. So other than that, I have this book available. Sir, Lisa, and I think was Denise on here? I
Yeah.
thought she was. And I have a zip drive too, so I can, if you guys don't have it, I would encourage you to look through it. It pretty much has a lot of the bases covered. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Councilman Taylor, Councilmember Scott, questions for Archie?
I have a question for you. On your paramedic school, just for the sake of everybody in the room and to answer any questions from the public, what kind of, if you send somebody to school, do you have a term that they have to stay in the city and work? And then if they leave early, they have to pay back?
Yes, this just happened. They signed a contract for, well, it's in the CBA, that they work here for 3 years. But, a lot of these departments, this last gentleman that left, he just went to Thurston County. They $20,000 more a year, and he just paid off what he owed, and then he left.
Okay,
So,
well, at least we're getting our money back. That's, I guess, my
Yeah.
concerns.
I would like to see that, like, I would like to see a longer commitment. 5 years is what I would like to see. But that doesn't stop anybody from just eating it and paying the city back and moving on. But
Correct.
we're doing everything we can to hold on to the people that we have.
What do you think the likelihood of having a 5-year term would be that would get passed?
That would have to be brought up in negotiations.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
what-
mean, I mean,
Good.
from some of the members I've talked to, they don't disagree.
Okay.
Because it isn't really paying off for us if we're funding it and they're leaving, right? But we're kind of thinking of it also as a retention, you know, to keep people here. After 5 years, it's hard to leave. So, you know, it's hard to leave. So that's something that I think both sides are looking at.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
No, good reports, everyone. It was very informative, and it gives us some talking points with council, especially because public safety is going to be a big thing moving forward. We have a lot of needs, we're growing, and we need to address them. So I appreciate all the thought into the reports. And again, it's nice moving forward that we can have these things to talk about, so we can bring them back to council.
Terrific. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, April 15th at 5 o'clock in this very same room. And I thank everyone for coming tonight. Thanks so much.